In any event, we're starting Parshas Vayeitzei. Okay, Vayeitzei Yakov mi Beersheva vayelech Harana. Yakov leaves Beersheva, and he heads for a place called Haran. Now, the first thing that's interesting that Yaakov Avinu, Chazal say that he took a detour. And where did he detour to? To the Beis HaMedrash. He took him to the Beis Medrash. He went to the Beis Medrash of Shem ve'Ever. He went to the Beis Medrash to learn Torah, and he learned Torah for 14 years in the Beis Medrash of Shem ve'Ever. And the Chazal make a calculation that he was away from his parents for 36 years. Yet, he was only accountable for 22 of them. And he was punished for being away, for not honoring his parents for 22 years. He was punished that later on Yosef was away for him from 22 years. What happened? But if you make the calculation, he was away for 36 years. Those 14 years that he was in yeshiva, he's not accountable for. The 14 years that he spent in yeshiva, Shem ve'Ever, because according to halacha, a person is allowed to leave home without parental consent in order to learn Torah. That your person is allowed to do. Not only that, in the time of the Gemara, they used to leave home. Theoretically, a man could leave home without his wife's consent to learn Torah. And in the time of the Gemara, Ksubas says they used to, like Rabbi Akiva, went away for 12 years. And the Gemara mentions others that went away for 12 years. Some went away for 6 years. Some went away for 3 years. It wasn't like these summer programs, 4 weeks at Ohr Somayach. You went away to yeshiva. You went on the 12-year program. It was a serious business. Then Rabbi Akiva stayed for another 12 years. The Gemara says that Rava sent his son to learn to yeshiva for 6 years. And after 3 years, his son decided to come home for a visit on Erev Yom Kippur. Rava heard that his son was coming home. So he took a blunt object and he went out and met him halfway. Like what do what happened? He got homesick a little bit, and they two of them the Gemara says they got into an argument and neither of them ate. It was Erev Yom Kippur, and either they went into Yom Kippur fasting, they went to Yom Kippur hungry. In those days, you went off for 6 days, that was it. They were a serious business. It wasn't one of these, a weekend type of things. You went off to yeshiva. So Yaakov goes for 40. Now, turn back for 1 second. And look at the bracha that. look what Yitzchak says to Yaakov when he first comes in. On page. When Yakov comes in for the bracha, it's on page 136. Thanks, Steve. So it says on 136 towards the bottom. Vayimushehu, 6 lines from the bottom. Vayimushehu, Yitzchak touches Yakov. Where is it? What? Vayimushehu. How does the article translate it? I can't see there. Vayigash Yaakov, who felt him. Right. Vayomer hakol kol Yaakov vayadayim yedei Esav. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, and the hands are the hands of Esav. That means when Yaakov came in, Yaakov used the Shem Hashem. He used Hashem's name, which was not characteristic of Esav. You didn't say Mirtz Hashem, Bli Netter. Esav was not a Baal Tshuva. He didn't use the Shem Hashem. Yaakov was always saying Mirtz Hashem. What do you call that sort of thing. So because Yaakov used the Shem Hashem, so Yitzchak touches him and he says, well, the voice is the voice of Yaakov and the hands are the hands of Esav. Now, on this part, now look very carefully. It says Hakol Kol Yakov. Now you'll notice that the first kol is missing a vav. And on this, Rashi says, the Gemara brings down, the Gemara says, Hakol Kol Yakov, when the voice of Yaakov is strong, then, in other words, when we're learning Torah, then the hands of Esav will not be, the hands of Esav will not hurt us. Now the problem, it's example the draft here somewhere. I need the windows closed. The cold air. Is that window closed? The doors are closed also. Okay, if possible, close off the what do you call it? Keep the germs in. So it says hakol kol the germs are warmer. Hakol kol Yaakov. When the voice is the voice of Yaakov, so then the hands of Esav can't hurt us. That's what Chazal say, but it doesn't really fit the words because it says when the voice is the voice of Yaakov, the hands will be the hands of Esav. So how do Chazal say when the voice is the voice of Yaakov, when we're learning Torah, the hands of Esav will not be harmful to us? Page 136, 136 lines from the bottom. So the Vilna Gaon says, you'll notice that the first line, the first kol is missing a vav. So it's read as Hakal kol Yaakov. When the voice of Yaakov becomes kal, light, insignificant, then a yadayim yidayis of the hands of Esav will hurt us. That means the drasha is on the word hakal kol. If our voices are strong, how do you know? Because when it's weak, hakal kol Yaakov, it could be read as hakal, even though we read it the nikudot are hakol. But if it didn't have vowelization, you could read it as hakal. Hakal kol Yaakov. When the voice of Yaakov becomes light, we're not learning Torah as much. Then hayadayim yidayis of the hands of Esav could affect us. So since it could be read that way, Chazal darshan, if the voice of Yaakov is strong, so then the hands of Esav will not affect us. So Esav's bracha is the hand of Esav, which is how much? Yad is how much? 10. Yad? 14. So when Yaakov leaves, where does he go? He goes to the Beis Medrash for how long? 14 years. Now that Esav is chasing him, so he's got to do something to ward off the hand of Esav, which is 14. How many years in the Beis Medrash? 14 years, and to correspond to the Yad of Esav, to weaken the Yad of Esav. So Yaakov stops off at the Beis Medrash, and he runs towards Choran. Now, Vayifga b'makom v'yolen sham kivo hashemesh. Yaakov hits the area of the Beis Hamikdash. Vayikach me'avnei hamakom v'yosem rashosov. He takes stones. Vayishkav b'makom ahu. He lies down in that place. Take a look at Rashi. The left column of Rashi, 2 lines from the top. Vayishkav b'makom ahu, loshon miut. It's a excluding something. There he laid down. Right? You've learned enough Gemara to know that every single word, every single inflection, there he laid down. So what does that tell you? Be'oso makom shachav. There he laid down. Aval yud dalid shonim shishimesh bebeis Ever lo shachav lamayla. The 14 years that he was learning Torah in the house of Ever, there he didn't lie down. Shahaya osek b'Torah. He didn't lie down, he was learning Torah. It doesn't mean he didn't sleep for 14 years. But for 14 years he didn't lie down. He took shtender naps. You ever see guys put their head down on a shtender? I know guys who could put their head, really, in mainstream yeshivas, guys could put their head down on a shtender, they could sleep for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
Why
only one and a half? Wow.
What?
Why hour and a half is the maximum for them?
We haven't done a scientific study on it. I'm just telling you a fact, because usually by then their chavrusa wakes them up. I don't know. I haven't done a scientific, I'm telling you, I'm just throwing out an hour and a half. Boy, I'll tell you. Wow. I was bad in the previous incarnation. I'm just using an example of an hour and a half. I think my record was about 20 minutes. Wow. That's all I could never take it. My brother was able to go down. He just put his head down. He's zonked. It's like people on the plane. I sleep on the plane. I sleep for about 12 minutes at 12 minutes. Wake up, go back to sleep. 4 minutes, that sort of thing. Guy next to me goes to sleep in Israel, wakes up in New York. A guy sleeps more on the plane than he does at home. People like that could really drive you nuts. So Yaakov Avinu, 14. It doesn't mean he didn't sleep. It means he didn't lay down for 14 years. He didn't lay down. Now let's put this in the proper perspective. Sleep is often a result of motivation. When you're pumped up, when you're really excited about something, you don't need to sleep. The easiest way to stay up is to play cards all night, right? I did that when I was 17. I went out to play cards. I won all night poker or whatever it was. Never even yawned, right? When do you yawn? Shavuos night, right? Shavuos night, you go to the Beis Medrash and you drink all various forms of caffeinated liquid, and probably more than medically recommended, and you're still tired within 20 minutes, right? Why is that? It has to do with the stimulation. So if you're no one in an amusement park, at the amusement park, no one yawns. Right? No one yawns in the lunchroom when they're serving schnitzel. Nobody yawns over a good plate of food. Shabbos, nobody yawns at a Shabbos table till they have to bench. Right? When you get to bring out the benchers, then you start yawning. Then you realize how tired you are. But before that, while you're eating, nobody yawns while they're eating. Sleep has a lot to do with how motivated you are. Why don't children want to go to sleep at night? And it's true, by the way. Why don't 3-year-olds, try putting a 3-year-old, never want to go to sleep. Why not? Because for a 3-year-old, everything is new and exciting. He's going to miss out on something, what they call FOMO, right? He's got, there was FOMO before technology. 3-year-olds have always had FOMO. They don't want to miss out. 3-year-old does not. 2-year-old does not want to miss out. You put him in the crib, and he cries and screams because he doesn't want to go to sleep. He get overnight, he doesn't want to go to sleep. Adults, any adult in this room, anytime you're past the age of about 14, I think, but any of us, if I would give you a free pass right now, for the next 24 hours you could get into bed, it does not come off of your life expectancy. It's a bonus, 24 hours to go to sleep. We could basically sleep any time of day or night. Right? You got 24 hours free, and any adult could go to sleep. Why is it? A lot of it has to do with just been there, done that. That's the reason. There's nothing exciting you. When something exciting happens, then you're pumped up. There was a president of the United States who only slept 4 hours a night. Bill Clinton. He only slept 4 hours a night. So they asked him why. He said, because when I'm sleeping, I'm not the president. And apparently it's good to be president, because then you get to bomb things, right? And you get to make, and you get to make also, you get to tell people what to do. So it's good to be president. When you're excited and you're motivated, when you're pumped up, so it's hard to sleep. You're watching a football game, you can push yourself in an exciting football game, you don't even feel that you're tired. In Las Vegas, in casinos, they don't have windows, isn't that true? Right? Why? No windows or clocks. Because do they pump in oxygen? Yeah, they probably oxygen. They probably pump in other things, but they probably liquid. What's it called? Liquid cocaine. They probably push it. So who knows? Goodness knows what they're doing. At the end of the day, there are no windows and there's no clocks and there are no windows, because as long as there's lights and there's money and there's excitement, so you're pumped up. You're plugged. You're pumped up. A person can actually get to that level with Torah. You can get so stimulated by Torah. By the way, it's happened to me, not too often, but it has happened to me that I've learned Gemara at night, and we're like in something that's really involved, and I try to go to sleep. I'm fine. I'm physically tired. I need to go to sleep, and I can't. My mind can't, and my mind won't rest. You're just so pumped up from it. It's like when you come back from an exciting event. Sometimes something good happens, and you come back from an exciting event, and you just can't sleep. You're physically tired, and you can't sleep. You're just so pumped up, you can't sleep. So when it comes to Torah, a person can actually get to the point where you're so stimulated by the excitement of Torah. What happens to Yakov Avinu? He goes to lie down. He lies down when he's on the run. 14 years, think about this, gentlemen. 14 years in yeshiva, he didn't lie down. Why? He didn't need to. Because he was so pumped up from the learning, it was enough to do like this for a few minutes on a stender, and then can get up and continue learning. When is it that he loses the excitement? When is it that things kind of get just a little slow down? When he's running for his life from Esav. Oh, well, just running for my life. I think I'm going to lie down over here. That means that running for his life was not the same adrenaline as when he was learning. When he was learning Torah, there was a different adrenaline level. That's what we're striving for. Okay? Now, there's a very big question. Because he takes stones, and he puts the stones under his head. Now, take a look at Rashi. Why did he put the stones under his head? And this is one of the more difficult Rashis to understand. Right column, 3 lines from the bottom. Right column. Last word out. Vayasem Esav. He put the stones around his head. Asan kibin marzev. He made them like a wall. Saviv l'rosho. He made like a little wall around his head. Sheyare mipnei chayos ros. He was worried about the wild animals out in the wilderness. So then, what do you call it? He puts these stones around his head because he's running from the, what do you call it? Now, let me ask you a question. Aren't you bothered by something there? Nothing about that bother you?
Only around his head.
Only around his head. Why does that bother you?
Because they're uncomfortable.
Because they're uncomfortable. Well, when you're on the run and you haven't got much else, you go, well, maybe, Yaakov Avinu takes stones to put under his head, right? Okay, he obviously doesn't have anything else. Nothing else bother you about that idea?
Why around his head and not under his head?
He wore around his head to protect him from wild animals. He put oh, what about the right? Good, Tommy. How about the right? What are you protecting yourself from? Are there bears? Bears like white meat also. There's plenty of good meat on the thighs, on the legs. That's not much as far as protection goes, is it? Not much as far as protection. Wait, put a stone around your head. What about the rest of your body? And you're completely exposed over there, right? There are wilderness survival tricks, right? Putting stones around your head isn't one of them, right? That just doesn't work. That just does not work. I had a guy tell me he knew a girl who was walking in college. He said this girl was walking what's it called in the East United States, the Appalachian Trail? Yeah. She was on this Appalachian Trail by herself. Now apparently at some point, this is what the guy told me. At some point, she saw a couple of bear cubs, really cute little bear cubs. And then she realized that, unfortunately, the bear cubs were really cute, except the bear cub's mother was behind her. She was between the bear cubs and the mother bear, which is always something you want to avoid, right? And so the mother apparently wasn't happy. And so the girl saw it. She's alone in the Appalachian Trail, and she started walking. She started walking, and the mother bear was following her about 10 feet behind her, just walking. And then after a few miles, also the mother, a few miles, she was walking. It was probably an unpleasant few miles. And after a few miles, the mother just suddenly turned around and walked back to the left her alone. What do you go? Yeah, that's a story that you could tell somebody. That you live to tell it is a bit of a surprise. That's not a good thing to get between a mother bear and her cubs. So the Yaakov Avinu puts the stones around his head, but that's not much in the way of protection. There really isn't much in the way of protection. So this goes back to a theme that we find in the Torah constantly, and that theme is that same way that Noach builds an ark, which we said based on the numbers of animals and the size of the animals and the amount of food that you would have to take in. Just the food for a hippopotamus in a year would not fit in the teva. You know how much hippopotami eat, right? And you know how much an elephant, I think they said, an elephant eats, I think, 300 pounds of food a day. A teva does not, it's not big enough for it. It's just not big enough. You can't fit it all in there. The animals and the food. The animals are massive. Once you start with an elephant, a hippopotamus, and a rhinoceros. I haven't even gotten to all the cats and all the dogs and all the and the giraffes. I mean, it's ridiculous. They can't hold that. So why build a teva at all? The answer is that we have to do as much as we possibly do and let HaKadosh Baruch Hu take care of the rest. We make our effort and let HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You find the same thing about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu's mother smears some slime in a wicker basket and puts them in the Nile, where there are alligators and hippopotami, right? What are your chances? You know that hippopotami, that's how you say it, right? Hippopotami, that's the plural, I'm so sophisticated. Hippopotami kill more people per year in continental Africa than all other animals put together, all other wildlife put together. You didn't know that, Ezra?
Yeah.
They are fierce, and they are fierce. They're fast as heck. They know. They look like they have a smile, right? Mm-hmm. And they look cute. They look like your Uncle Al, the bald guy who's always smiling and smokes a cigar. But they're not. They're fierce and they're nasty. Josephus records that one of the Roman wars, the Romans reported that there were more soldiers killed by the hippopotami than by the enemy put together. That's what everybody. They've got the widest jaw span of any mammal. And so what chance was there for Moshe Rabbeinu? Put him in a slime. It could flip over in the waves. There could be an alligator. What do they have in the Nile? What do they got? Alligators, crocodiles? I don't know what they got there. What are they? Crocodiles? Crocodiles are worse than alligators. Crocodiles, both parts move. Right. Alligators, only the top. Alligators, only the bottom moves. They're like human beings. Only the bottom jaw moves.
Right. They have the strongest bite force out of animals.
Who does? Crocodiles. They have the strongest bite force. So what chance does he have? By the way, even alligator wrestling is not a big hock. Because alligators, you can hold an alligator's mouth closed. The guys who wrestle alligators, the trick is to get your hand over the snout. And under 30, you could hold an alligator's mouth closed under 30 pounds of pressure. It's just not a big deal to wrestle. If you had an alligator here, I would show you. It's just not a big deal. It's not a big. Just get that hand in there and get just hold it close. Not a big deal. Wrestling a crocodile is a little harder. Back in the day when I was doing it, it took more practice. So yes, they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, they're quicker, they're everything. Basya Bas Paro goes down to save Moshe Rabbeinu, right? How does she save him? Stretches out her hand. How far did it stretch? There's one opinion it stretched 60 amos, 90 feet. Not bad. He could get a first down without even moving. She's a great football player, right? Just reach over for the touchdown. Right? Get to the 30 and you got to score a touchdown automatically every time. 90. I got one question. I only have one problem with that. Great story. She stretches out her arm, stretch, and she saves him. She pulls him in. There's only one problem. When she reached out her arm, did she know it was going to stretch? It's not like she had a history of stretching her arms. It's not like she went to gym class, and where did Basya Bas Paro, what was she thinking? What were you thinking? What makes you think, if I would stand here and I would reach for the clock on that, that clock's off, I'm going to adjust the clock. And I would stretch my hand out to get to that clock. One of two things would happen. Either my arm would stretch or it wouldn't stretch. Now, if my arm wouldn't stretch, and I'd be standing here like this, like that, trying to reach the clock, right? So then your reaction would be to go speak to Rabbi Geffen afterwards. Can we talk to you for a second, privately? There's something, there's something, right? And if my arm would stretch, you'd all be out of here in a flash, right? What was she thinking? Well, what was the Havamina? What were you thinking? What makes it? The answer is, you got to try. Try. That's all you can do is make your effort. Yakov doesn't have much choice over here. He's on the run. There are wild animals around. He's a man of faith. But you can't just say, I'm a man of faith. Make your hishtadlus. So you take some rocks and you put them around your head. Take some rocks, put them around your head. I'm helpless here. Ultimately, we're always helpless. Ultimately, we have nothing we do matters. It's all hishtadlus. I understand, if you go to work and you write numbers down and you keep track of other people's money, what's called an accountant. Therefore, you should be able to support your family. That doesn't make sense either. And if you stand behind a bar and you give people alcohol, therefore, you should be able to say you support your family by doing that. It doesn't make sense either. And that you give somebody a piece of paper and he gives you a loaf of bread, right? That doesn't make sense either. The fact that currency is a miracle. The fact that people are willing to take something in exchange for goods is a miracle. So at the end of the day, we just make our hishtadlus. We have to make our effort. That's what Yaakov Avinu is doing. Okay. Now, he has a dream. And by the way, one of the guys in Ohr Somayach once told me, you know why he's putting the stones around his head? A fascinating idea, guy told me. Very creative. He said, here's a guy who came out of Yeshiva. Listen, you guys have seen what the world outside looks like, and you've seen what Yeshiva, what Torah learning looks like. How would you compare the mindsets and thought processes, right? Not comparable. Right? You compare a Torah mind, somebody's learning Gemara, you've seen what a Gemara looks like, and you have to think about this and think about that, and it's a Havamina, and then it's the opposite, exactly the opposite of what you've been thinking of the last 3 days. And everything, right? True or not true? Everything, just when you think you got it, then right, a curveball, it's not a kash on a bay, it's on Rav Zera. Oh, shame, right? Everything, just exactly. So there's what we call a yeshivish cup. Person develops a head where you look at everything through the head of Torah. When you read a headline in the newspaper, if I read a headline in a newspaper that says the governor of Colorado is starting a new program to build more bridges in Colorado to reinforce the bridges on the highways of Colorado. Right? The governor has passed the law, signed the bill to reinforce the bridges in all the highways of Colorado, right? What's your reaction to that?
Bridges are falling down.
Good. That is what the average person's reaction. A person who has learned Torah looks at it and says, the governor's probably got a brother-in-law who's got a steel company, right? And so, or that he's been paid off by the heads of the highway commission, right? The last thing I'm thinking about is bridges are falling because he doesn't care. He only cares about one thing. He cares about getting reelected. That's all he cares about. So it could be people are upset in Colorado because if a couple of people got bridges fallen on them or something. But whatever it is, the last thing I'm thinking is that the governor of Colorado actually cares about the people. That's the last thing on the list, because they don't. What's the proof? He became a governor. Right? That's the proof. If he's in politics, he obviously doesn't care about the people. Right? It's almost a what do you call it? It's a what's it called? Oxymoron. You know, if you're there, you obviously can't care about the people, otherwise you wouldn't be there. It just doesn't work. All I'm telling you is, and I'm no great cunning mind, but a Torah mind, you cut through. That's what Gemara does. You cut through all of the externalities and you get to what's really going on over here. What's really happening? Yaakov Avinu was in Yeshiva for 14 years. Where's he going now? He's going out to join the real world, the loved ones of the world, the various cunning deceivers of the world. Yaakov Avinu feels, listen, this is vulnerable. I'm going to be vulnerable out there. One thing I want to do, at least let me protect my yeshivish head. Let me take my brains, my yeshivish cup with me. Let's get some protection for that when I go out to that world. And when you go out to that world, all of a sudden, you're like, are you serious? Right? This is really what your life is about? Your life is about drinking and carousing and doing this. And you can't even, when you've been in a yeshiva, you're like, are you really serious about this? Are you absolutely serious? You can't really be thinking this way. That's what Yaakov wants to protect. Okay, one more idea. I heard this from Rav Lev Shlita. Why does Yaakov lie down over here? And then the next pasuk says, "Vayachalom v'nei sulam musavartze." He has the dream. He has the dream about the ladder. Why does Yaakov lie down over here and go to sleep? So I'll tell you an interesting idea. I heard this idea originally from Rabbi Gottlieb many years ago. There's one day of year where we really let go. We're from Jews let go, which is Purim. Right? Purim is the one day a year that we let go theoretically. Sometimes people, maybe overdo it a little here and there, but Purim is the day where we officially do it. Right? We actually had a guy here in the yeshiva years ago who was there for about 2 weeks. He tried to check out Ohr Somayach, completely secular. And he was on there for about 2 weeks, and he wasn't having it, and he was going to leave. And he got invited to one of the rabbi's house for Shabbos. So this rabbi, I as a guest, a few guys are at the table. So after the chant, the rabbi opens up a drawer and he pulls out a bottle of Jack Daniels. So this guy looks, he goes, "Rabbis drink Jack Daniels? I'm staying," right? The guy stayed and became from, because the guy stayed. He changed his name. He changed his name to Yakov Daniels, and the guy said, because that was complete. There's another guy I spoke to. This is a guy that I spoke to, and I asked him what motivated him to become from. He said it was Purim. I said, what about Purim motivated you to become from? He says, I saw that religious people could be normal. And normal by him means you can't walk a straight line. You understand? That's what normal means. That's what he considers normal. Listen, he was 4 years in college. What was normal? He hasn't walked a straight line in 4 years. So that's already become normal. I had one guy who told me that his roommate in college was such an alcoholic that he had beer everywhere he went. He had beer in the car, beer in his beer here, beer there. He said in the morning he had Cheerios with beer instead of Cheerios with milk. Right? So that's normal. No, that's normal. That's normal. So what is Purim about? So I heard there's a fascinating explanation. There's the regular standard idea that, Chayvin Ish Besume, it's a celebration, it's a physical celebration. That's all obviously the basic idea which the Gemara says, and we celebrate, it's a physical celebration because there's a physical redemption for the Jewish people. That's, by the way, Hanukkah is coming. That's the very big difference between Purim and Hanukkah. And Purim and Hanukkah I always compare it to the Holocaust and the Spanish Inquisition. Because the Holocaust was against Jews, the Spanish Inquisition was against Judaism. Purim was against Jews, Hanukkah was against Judaism. It's a different type of celebration. It's a spiritual celebration on Hanukkah. Hanukkah, we light the candles, and you have some, what do you call it? You say there's no official feast on Hanukkah. We do. We have latkes, oily food to commemorate the menorah, and because Jews like oily food, and you eat the what do you call it? You eat the jelly, the sufganiot, or the jelly donuts, which somebody once said are the classic miracle food, because you eat one and it burns inside for 8 days. That's the classic miracle food. Purim is a physical celebration because there was a physical threat to the existence of Jewish people. Rabbi Gottlieb said years ago, I heard him say, you're sitting and learning, you're learning Musar, you're working on yourself. We're all trying to grow. How much have I really internalized? How much have I really changed and internalized? You know when I can test that? One day a year I get to test it. Drink on Purim and I let go a little bit. I only do it one day a year. And a drink on Purim and you let go. Let's see the behavior when you would let go on Purim. That's our test. So if a guy on Purim drinks, gets up, jumps on the table, puts a lampshade on his head, and just dances, that makes a total spectacle. Okay, that's where you're holding. If a guy's on Purim, and I've seen this, where a guy's on Purim and he's speaking Torah, spewing out words of Torah. Somebody's confused. And he's saying gematrias, none of which add up, right? But he's trying. That's why another guy sitting at the table crying because he can't give more tzedakah. It tells you a little bit of what's going on. When you dream, what happens in a dream? What's a dream? A dream's an indication of what the person has been thinking about during the day. Very often a dream is what the person has been thinking about, what a person has truly internalized. Yakov came out of Yeshiva for 14 years. After 14 years, what do I really want out of life? Yakov goes to sleep. What did I get out of 14 years from Yeshiva? I'm going to go to sleep. Let's see what I dream. The dream will be an indication of what's going on in my subconscious. What do I really want? What are my she'ifas in life? What are my goals in life? And a person has to have a she'ifa. A person has a goal. So Yaakov lies down to sleep. Okay. Then we get to the central theme of certainly the first part of the Parsha. Vayachalav v'hinei sula musav artza v'rosha magia shemaima v'hinei malachi elokim oli v'yordimo. Yaakov has a dream, and he dreams that there's a ladder. This dream of the ladder, by the way, is it is one of the most discussed sections of the Torah among the Mefarshim in all of the Torah. Yaakov's ladder becomes, Yaakov's ladder with all the symbolism. Okay, so let's take it point by point. First of all, how wide was this ladder? What are you picturing when you picture Yaakov's ladder?
1.5 feet wide.
1.5 feet wide, really tall, right? Really tall, going all the way up there. Can't even see. Extendable ones like the fire, like the firemen, right? And you want to get at that hose, right? Yeah, that fireman's hose. Yeah. That's what we're thinking of. Yeah, I guess it's because we're such deep people. So Yaakov's ladder, the Medrash says, based on a calculation, if it says angels were going up, which is plural, because it says "V'nei malachi Elokim olim v'yordim bo." Angels of God were going up and coming down. Olim is the minimum plural. How much is the minimum plural?
2.
Yordim, minimum plural, is 2. The malachim are going up. Now, gentlemen, whatever we picture angels to be, they aren't. Right? We have our Hollywood-induced pictures of angels with wings and that. Whatever if you could picture it, that it isn't. Right? Because we're not on that level. So, how wide is a malach? The Gemara makes a calculation, and based on the Gemara's calculation, each malach is 2,000 parsos wide.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, a parsa is 2,000. Each parsa is 2,000 amas, I think. Okay. So the malachim are 2,000 parts. Each malach is 2,000 parsos wide times 4. Comes out to 8,000 parsos. 8,000 parsos wide is wider than the entire earth. So Yaakov's ladder, which we're picturing as a fireman's ladder, is completely an inaccurate picture in our mind. It's a ladder that is so wide that according to Chazal, it's wider than the entire width of the earth. Why does it have to be? If the Gemara says it, and if the Gemara says it and that's the way it is, then it's there for us to learn something. It wasn't there just because they could come up with a different ladder. Why? What is the ladder symbolic of? A ladder that reaches, I hate to say it, a ladder to heaven. I'm not even going to say the words, because then I'll start singing. Right? So it's a ladder to heaven. Right? It's a ladder to heaven, all the way up, disappears in the clouds, right? So why is it, it's too spiritual for me, I can't. Why is the ladder all the way up to the clouds? Obviously it's the ladder of spiritual growth. And there's one rung at a time in the ladder because it's a reminder to us you climb one rung at a time. We don't go jumping levels. There's no instant from, right? You don't go from 0 to 60. You know, one day the guy's Mechal Shabbos, and within 3 days he's got every chumrah of the Chazon Ish, and along with payas, right? It doesn't work that way. It's a ladder. It's one rung at. I get you 1 second, Ezra. It's one rung at a time. What's it teaching us? Why is it 8,000 parsaos wide?
Room for everyone.
Good. There's room for everyone. Everyone has to get on. That means there's no one on earth who can't understand this intuitively. The ladder means there's no one, it extends across the entire earth. There's no one who could say that ladder wasn't accessible to me. I could have figured it out. I could have worked it out. Not only Jews, even Noachides should understand and figure out at a certain point that what they're worshiping, the pagan worship, is nonsense. They should be able. They don't have to become convert. They don't have to become Jewish. But you should realize that there's a God who created the world, and it's not that little guy who couldn't afford the shirt. What's his name? Buddha. I call him the little fat guy who can't afford a shirt, right? And they're worshiping him. I mean, get a shirt, man. You're indecent. He's in front of every Chinese restaurant in the world. They got to stab. They got right. There's Buddha. Hey man. What happened to you? Forgot to get dressed this morning. You should be able to see through that. Right? You should be able to see through all the nonsense that they believe in. Everybody could get on the ladder, and especially us. Especially us. There's a ladder. No one's telling us that we have to jump up to the top. You start climbing. But there are rungs to climb, but we have to climb. And nobody can say, I didn't have a chance. That's the first lesson of the ladder. Ezra, what were we going to ask?
Angels are supposed to be stationary in their existence. Like they don't climb madrigas.
Good. So we'll see there going up into what these angels. You're asking an excellent question. And they're not. They are stationary. They're called omdim. Angels are called omdim. Now I'll tell you something else. There's a statement in the Gemara that says if the Rebbe is like an angel, then you should learn Torah from him. And if not, if the Rebbe resembles an angel, if the Rebbe is similar to an angel, so you should learn Torah from him. If he's like a malach, you should learn Torah from him, otherwise not. Now the blind meaning is that his midos and his behavior is refined, and he's a type of person that you say, ooh, he's a malach. But there's one of the explanations is that the responsibility of a Rebbe is 100% on his disciples. That the Rebbe isn't thinking about, the Rebbe is an omed like an angel, not thinking about his own growth. The Rebbe can't think about his own, he's got to think about the growth of the Talmidim. As a result of that, he ends up, ironically, that's how he grows. But the Rebbe's job is to be focused on his customers. Like, his customers are the Talmidim. The Rebbe's got to be like a malach, he's got to be an omed. A Rebbe who goes into a shir, and a Rebbe who teaches Talmidim thinking about, well, I want to teach a subject that's good for me, then you want to learn what's good for you, but not when you have Talmidim. When you have Talmidim, you have to focus on what the Talmidim need. Rav Pam Zatzal was the Rosh Yeshiva of Torah V'das. If Pam said it makes no difference to him if he would teach the highest level shir or if he would teach second graders. Makes no difference to him. All he wanted to do is teach Torah. It makes no difference, and he's totally focused. That's the job of a Rebbe. A malach is an omed. Olim v'yordim bo. The malachim are going up. We'll see tomorrow that the symbolism is for us, not the malachim. The malachim don't have free choice. The malachim are not growing. They're omdim. They're stationary. Okay. See you tomorrow.